how do you want to live, feel, and be when you're in your 80s, in your 90s? Hi, I'm Jo Clark, and thanks so much for joining me today. This is the Redefining Midlife podcast, a podcast designed for the 40-plus woman who is determined to challenge society's myths and beliefs around midlife. It's for the woman who is inspired and ready to define midlife her way. Join me each week as I chat to health and wellness experts for up-to-date information on how to live well as some special conversations with incredible everyday women redefining what midlife can look like. Here's to making our next half of life even better than the first. Welcome to episode 100 of the Redefining Midlife podcast, and thank you so much for joining me on this very special episode. Now, reaching 100 episodes is a big milestone in podcast land, and it is not as common as you think it would be. So today I'm feeling a mixture of excitement, pride, and joy that I've actually reached this milestone. Now, for those of you who have been with me since the early days, thank you so much. I just hope I didn't make your ears bleed too much for those first few episodes. And for those of you who are new listeners, welcome and thanks for listening. Today, the tables were turned for this episode. Instead of me interviewing someone, my very special friend and incredible mentor, Tracy Harris, is interviewing me about my life and my journey, which was so much fun. And I can tell you a lot was shared, possibly a little too much at times. And Tracy has been with me since the very early days of my brand new business. She could always see so much more potential in me, and she still does, to be honest, than I could ever see in myself. She's been a cheerleader, she's been a guide, and above all else, she is a kind, generous, and loyal friend. Now, here's a little bit about her before we begin. Tracy Harris is the energetic founder and head coach at tracyharris.co, which is Australia's leading online community and online education platform for mums in business. She is fiercely dedicated to supporting big-hearted women who are wanting to design their life first and a business second. And she does this by harnessing the superpower of Instagram as part of a complete digital strategy. Tracy herself is a successful 7+ figure digital entrepreneur, and she also helps women grow and scale their own online courses and memberships. She's a strong advocate for increasing the profile of mums in business and for helping more women to become 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs themselves while honouring family life and values. Now, I also want to add that Tracy was a very early adopter of podcasts, and her show, Mums with Hustle, has been going for 9 years. That has over 440 episodes and it's not going to be stopping anytime soon. That much I know. For me, that's just mind-blowing. Tracy's also been a past guest on the show, so after you listen to this episode, you can head to episode 59 and listen to more of her amazing story. Now, without further ado, let's start episode 100. Welcome, Tracy Harris. This is going to be a really special interview because I have got no idea what your questions are going to be. I don't know what direction this episode is going to go, but thank you so much for being here and sharing the 100th episode with me on this. It means absolute world to me that someone as special as you, who has been a major part of my life for the past at least 3 years at a very consistent level. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with me to share this moment.
It is my pleasure to be here celebrating you. I know the enormity of one podcast episode, let alone 100. I know the unlearning that has had to take place for you, for any woman that dares to get on the mic and share her passion, her thoughts, her story, and also the new learning, because it's not easy. And so to know that you've done that 100 times over, I'm celebrating every single one of those episodes, for every single piece of knowledge or bravery that you've had to encounter, every inner critic, every voice of doubt that has, been slayed in the process. Like, yay, go Jo. She's 100 episodes.
She is 100 episodes. Thanks, Trace, because that's so true. You don't really think about it. Well, I suppose you do overthink some things when you're just starting, but where I was episode 1 to where I am episode 100, the person I've become throughout that whole process, Yeah, it is pretty amazing that a platform like this exists and you can have these sorts of experiences.
Absolutely. And I know that there are women listening to your podcast that maybe have a desire to do something as bold or as courageous, maybe not a podcast, literally, or maybe, but they're afraid or they've got stories holding them back. But you are the leader of the movement for women who want to redefine midlife and the second half of life, and you're leading by doing. You've redefined. And so I'm going to ask you some questions today, Joe.
Oh, let's get going.
Let's get going. And everybody, hello. Nice to meet you. Like Joe said, I have been her business mentor for the past 3 years or 3 and a bit years. And I really have seen Joe flourish and continue to embody absolutely everything that she teaches and mentors all of you ladies in doing and in becoming. And today we are celebrating her remarkable milestone of 100 episodes. And so, yes, I've got some questions to ask Joe. She does not know what I'm going to ask her. I didn't want to share with her because I think sometimes it's so nice to get initial reactions and just have real conversations. And I know Joe is so authentic, so she's just happy for me to ask away. Isn't that right?
That's right, Trace. Thank you.
All right. So I just thought, let's just start with your definition, Joe. What does reinventing mean to you? And why has this become your mission? What's the whole philosophy behind this movement that you are leading or walking beside your women in?
Mm. You don't know what midlife's going to be until you start to walk through this large chunk of life, because it is, in fact, a large chunk of your life. There is no roadmap. There are so many bumps and twists and turns along this period of your life, and it takes you by surprise. And for me, I had to there's a lot of reinvention and reimagining and rediscovering. It was everything, basically, because what was happening, Trace, is that a number of massive transitions were happening to me, not nicely spaced, but all at once. And so that caused a lot of turmoil. And for many women, they follow the same path as me. That there are a number of things that happen to themselves, both personally, physically, socially, professionally, that causes them to stop and to think about, is this the path I still want to be on? What could life look like if I made some different decisions? What do I need in my life right now? What can stay? What can go? So I like to almost call it like a midlife edit, because we accumulate, we really accumulate in our 20s, in our 30s, and in our 40s. And probably towards your mid to late 40s and into your 50s, you start to edit what is really important in your life now. So that's that for me. If I knew that I was going through that, a number of my friends were, women I was working with who are the similar age to me, we were all going through lots of different things in our life, and without any guidance, roadmap, advice. So I thought, well, I'll take the step and learn a lot more about this stage of life and what's happening and share that with others.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is that when we reach midlife, and I've just turned 40, so yay, I'm so excited about it as well. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh. But, from the sounds of it, I have some transitions on the horizon in this next season or second half of life. And so you're saying just be prepared to reassess and edit what maybe isn't serving me anymore, so that I can really continue to experience the fullness of life, but maybe let go what isn't necessary anymore, but also remain open to what is now possible or what feels exciting now. And I love that you use the word edit, because for so long that term midlife crisis gets thrown around. And so I'm wondering, when you say the word edit, is that like a healthier reframe or a new paradigm on what maybe we've previously thought of as the midlife crisis, or is it something different?
No, I think we should reframe it, because we know there are going to be ups and downs in life. That's a given. You're going to come across some really hard times in your life. But I suppose in midlife, you're going to come up with more than you may have had when you were younger. I mean, that everyone's life experience is obviously going to be different, but if we think for a woman, and women, particularly women, if you've had children, you're going to go through the stage where your children are no longer going to be needing and wanting you as much. And your whole role of who you are as a mum changes. So you're having to, don't see that as a crisis, but see that as a chance to, what's the relationship do you want going forward with yourself as a mother and with your children.
Yeah.
So it's sort of changing and editing what that might look like. If we're looking at our own body and the changes through the menopause transition, what happens there, and your changes in what you're looking like, what you're feeling like, don't see that as a crisis, but see that as an opportunity then to really examine and edit what you're doing as far as looking after your health and your wellness. How do you want to feel now, and how do you want to feel going forward, and make those decisions now. Your role as a daughter, you know, when your parents sadly get older and pass away, that whole relationship changes. So you have to edit that. You still have a relationship with your parents, even though they may not be with you physically, but they're still with you spiritually inside, living in your heart and your mind. So what's that going to look like? And then maybe your career, maybe you don't want to be down that path. Let's edit that. Let's change what it could look like. Relationships, so many women have, you know, they find that they don't want to be with their partner anymore. Let's edit that. Let's change it. Let's improve it, or let's decide that we want to have something different. So there's lots of different milestones along the way that we have at this stage of life that do need not a crisis in seeing them that. Let's redefine it. Let's change it. Let's see more of the, not saying everything's going to be glorious and wonderful, but let's just see what we can do as far as improving and making this stage better and adaptable and the way that we want to live it.
Let's talk about career for a second, because you have had a major shift. Like, you've completely redesigned your life in so many ways, but career being one of them. So you were a teacher for 3 decades and a principal. And then in 2020, you had your epiphany, awakening, whatever. You decided to do your own edit, and you became a digital entrepreneur. What was that experience like? Like, do you feel like you were transitioning into that for a period of time, or was it a bit more spontaneous and sudden?
Bit of both. And I think you can probably identify with that because you were also in the teaching profession, where there was a period where you weren't all that happy with where you were in your career, and you knew there had to be a change. What was that going to look like, and what was it going to be? So for me, that was the same. The career was not the career that I was happy with and being a part of anymore. It had changed and morphed so much that it was something that I didn't recognize, and it was changing me as a person. And being in the education system and being a teacher and imparting that knowledge and being with little people all the time, you've got to be at your very best. And I knew I wasn't, and I knew there was something more that I could do. So the changing and knowing that was something that I had to investigate and really confront to decide whether or not I was going to stay in the profession. Obviously, I chose not to. So that took a little bit of time, that reckoning. Is it going to happen? Is it not? What's it going to look like? Am I brave enough to do it? Who am I if I'm not a teacher? Because that was such a big part of who I was for a very...
And the guilt.
My adult life, basically. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Did you have the guilt of like, no, God, but like, this is what about the kids?
Yes.
What about the staff? Yeah.
Yes. And of course, it happened during COVID time, where it really reached its zenith. And of course, these poor kids have gone through that much. But I've got to look, it's self-preservation. You really have to put yourself first, so I can be the best version of of who I can be. So yeah, that the transition of, I put in inverted commas, transition of deciding whether or not I was going to be a teacher or not took a little while. And by the time you end up in a fetal position, Trace, on the lounge, you realize that I think a decision has been made. It's just let's do it.
I
now.
know.
Yeah.
So because it's not easy, like when you have built a career and you've also got these degrees, you've got this experience, you've got these titles, like leadership roles, people see you as this particular like version of yourself, and now you're leaving and you're stepping out to go and do something that you've never done before. It's not easy. No. So what was the reception like from peers and friends? Because I had a whole mixed bag of reactions almost 10 years ago when I left my traditional career as a teacher to become a digital entrepreneur, which back then not many people even understood. And so, yeah, very mixed reactions from people. what was the reaction from the people in your life?
Mixed. Very similar
Yeah.
very similar to you. And many of the teaching staff, particularly because I'd not long moved to a new school, a completely different district, completely different region. So they may not have had the same history as some of my past colleagues have had that have worked with me. Oh, but Trace, so many of them just went, I wish I could do the same. And I go, well,
Oh, they
why
were
don't
like,
you?
take me with
Yeah,
you. Take me
yes,
with you, Joe.
yes, yep.
Ah,
Because they were feeling somewhat similar. Not
oh,
everybody, obviously, but there were a number that were feeling fairly similar as well, and their thoughts of what they wanted to do.
mm,
Family were very supportive, which was great. And again, it was happening at a time where my mum was slowly passing away. So that was another reason why I did leave too, Trace, so I can spend more time with her and have those lovely
yes.
memories instead of the memories of me being stressed and doing in a job that I didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
Some friends found it difficult because I suddenly started to change. And that is
Okay.
change is uncomfortable for some people. And that was hard to not have the support that I thought I was going to get.
Yeah. In what
Mm.
ways have you changed?
I suppose I made a decision to do something that again, maybe they wish they could have done, or maybe they wish they'd done something similar. I became probably more assertive in my way that I was going to live my life, not and put myself first. And just, I suppose, I had different interests now. I was exploring different things that they weren't a part of or couldn't be a part of because it wasn't either their interest or something that they just weren't able to bring themselves to be a part of. I don't know. It was interesting. A number of friendships had changed.
Yeah. Are those people all still in your life, or have some of those friendships disappeared
Bit
and
of
new
both.
ones come in?
Bit of
Yeah.
both. Yeah. Yeah. And
Are
I
you
think
okay? Are you okay with that?
I wasn't for a while. That was another part of a grieving process that was happening as well.
Yeah.
Changes in your relationships, and I suppose what I wanted to see going forward were probably more close friends who were championing me as well, even if it was something that they couldn't fully understand themselves, because I know that that's what I would do for them. And again, you just learn probably more about yourself and more about what other people are like. I could control my reactions. I couldn't control their behaviors. I can control my reaction to their behaviors, but it was a work in progress, put it that way. But I'm far more comfortable now.
Yeah. And what about all the new beautiful friendships and relationships
Oh,
that
I
you have?
know.
Because,
It's
yeah,
given space for beautiful new relationships to then come into my world. And that's, and I'm so thankful that you're part of that as well, because, being open, have your eyes open to different sorts of ideas and thoughts and possibilities. That's so key, I think, to leading a really special full life as well, not being stuck in the same ideas and the same thoughts and what everyone else is doing. Let's get out there and do something a bit different.
I know. And it all just begins with that one brave step. And
Mm.
I love that saying, when you think about the world and how many people are in the world, there's that saying, you haven't even met everyone that's going to love you yet.
Mm.
So when you're clinging and when you're prioritizing relationships that where people really aren't supportive in your growth and development as a person or in career or your interests, it's okay to release those individuals. Like, you don't need to change who you are. You don't need to deny yourself the opportunity of stepping into these new ways of being and learning and doing to constantly appease these people. They are very welcome to come on the journey, or at
Mm.
least encourage you to go on your journey. But yeah, I don't know, it can feel there is a grieving period
Yeah.
because when we grow, not everybody comes along for the ride. And that is a very real thing. Um, but then you open yourself up to so many amazing relationships too. And yes, you have not yet met everyone that is going to love you in your fullest essence. And that is such an exciting thing. It's not about leaving people behind, it's about meeting new people too. And
Mm.
that's so exciting. So, oh, what about in relationships? So, career, is one of the things that we get to edit and redesign and redefine for ourselves. What about our marriage? Like you and your amazing bestie and husband, Philip. Hey, Philip. Like how has marriage and relationship changed in midlife? Give me
Yeah.
some wisdom because I'm married. I'm 40. Our kids are young. But yeah, what can I expect on the horizon? Or how has your relationship grown and changed?
I think we've, like, you think you've got the best, and wherever you are, well, this is my experience. Of course, everybody's experience is going to be completely different. But for both Philip and I, whatever point in our marriage we always thought that this is fantastic. How amazing! What a lovely relationship we've got, and it's fabulous. And yes, there are some hard times, and we're coming across some real challenges, but we get through them, and we work together in order to get through the challenges. But I really think at this point in our life, we are at such a beautiful stage. We know each other so well and so deeply. We love each other so incredibly deeply. We understand each other and we give each other space to move and to grow and to change. And that, for me, I was really fortunate. Not every husband would be comfortable with their wife doing what I'm doing the sorts of things that I'm doing. They may want their wife to stay the same because that's safe and reliable. But my husband's also, Philip has also got a beautiful growth mindset where he's willing to try on different things. And because like he's a man from the land, so although men who come from rural backgrounds are often seen as conservative, he doesn't have a conservative mindset. And I think he's always been an entrepreneur, but you're a business person, so you're taking lots of risks. So he understands that with risk, there's also rewards. So I'm really lucky in that way that we've been able to, I've been able to have a partner who's really helped me to find the confidence, been my biggest cheerleader especially when I've needed it, not always knowing what to say when things don't go right, because, nothing always goes right. Nothing's ever rosy, but being there to pick up the pieces and, just sharing and being so proud of what I'm doing. And I think we're having experiences together. And that's really key to any good relationship, is putting that investment of time in, doing things that you both enjoy together. So for us, we love traveling. So traveling together and going for, beautiful dinners together, exploring things. Yeah, that's key.
Yeah. What are some of the things in your week that you and Philip make sure that you do together? Because you've got the most beautiful friendship and they're both hilarious, everybody. Like they are, they're so sweet and they're so smart and they're so mindful and they're all into their wellness, but then they're also just so cheeky and just a hoot to be around. So, like, what are some of the little things that you do to keep your spark alive? Because your marriage just keeps growing. And like you always say, it just keeps getting better and better, Trace. And I can see it. I'm like, oh, yeah. And that excites me as a young married person. Look at me calling myself young on the Midlife podcast. Yeah, because it's a mindset.
That's exactly right.
It is. But yeah, what are some of the things that you do on a weekly basis just to nurture your marriage and your friendship?
Yeah. And you know what I was thinking, but the little saying that popped up when you were saying all of those beautiful words, thank you, Trace, was the better it gets, the better it gets. And to have, to think about, oh my God, how it's great now, but I know it's going to get even better with what we do. So every morning I sit up in bed like princess and wait for my
that's
morning,
nice.
wait for my morning coffee to appear. On every weekdays, Philip usually gets up earlier than me. I lay doggo at 5 o'clock and don't sort of get up until at least 5:15 in the middle of winter. He's up and started his day. So normally on weekends we have we meditate together. Otherwise, during the week he meditates while I'm just lying in bed still. Then I have my meditation. By the time I finish that, in comes my cup of coffee, just like on demand. So we have we chat together. That's almost like a beautiful part of our morning ritual together, is that we have this time to chat and to talk about our day and what we're going to do and any events that have happened and what we're looking forward to. We like to go and
probably go for coffees or go for lunches or go for a dinner. That's something really nice as well, to go somewhere together. We never call it a date night or we're going on a date, but it's something that we always prioritize and try to do that at least once a week. And we have our Sunday bath together. That's always lovely, Tracy.
I'm so glad you're bringing up the bath. I wasn't going to, but
I knew
was
you were
just
going
like,
to, so
I
I thought,
wonder.
I'm going to get in first.
I'm never going to throw my ladies under the bus. I mean, what we talk about on our retreat stays at retreat. But if Jo's going to talk about the Sunday bath on her podcast, I am here for it.
That's also a lovely part of what we do on a Sunday. We've just, sit in the bath and have a yarn together and just talk and chat. And it's a really nice way to wind down the week that was and to start the week that's going to be. And I suppose we,
And you prioritize those special things, like they are little weekly or daily rituals that you both look forward to, and you prioritize them.
Yes.
That's so sweet. And I like what you said, like you don't even call it date night because you're just always dating each other.
Yes. Yeah.
We're so lovely.
It is lovely. We are, and I'll say we're very fortunate, but we also work at it. And it's probably something that we're both mindful of, because there's a lot of married couples who aren't happy, who aren't friends, who, don't like to spend time with each other. But that's not, thankfully, our story.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, who got into the meditation first?
Well, I've always been skirting with meditation and had practiced a number of different forms of meditation. I taught teachers how to teach meditation in the classroom. I would meditate with the children in the classroom, mindfulness meditation. But then I was really keen on a particular form of meditation, and I started to look into it. And I found a lady in Noosa who taught this style of meditation that I was really keen on learning more about. And I said to Philip, do you want to join with me? And he was, yeah, of course I would. That'd be great. I'd love to do that. So we both learnt this style, this practice together. And it's something that, has probably also, it's a lovely thing that we can do together, and we can understand and talk to each other on that, because it's opened up so many things for both of us in our way of thinking and our way of being, and reducing our stress in our day-to-day. So it's been wonderful to have that and to grow, because we've done our advanced techniques as well. So we've both been able to do that, to go to that next level. We've done rounding retreats together, where we've been able to be at the retreat together to do the rounding. It's been pretty special.
And now you both meditate together daily.
Weekends we meditate together.
Weekends,
but because he's up that little bit earlier than me, while I lays in bed for the next 15 minutes, and I meditate solo. Then he meditates solo. Yeah, so that's special as well, to be able to do that together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I just love hearing that Philip brings your coffee, because Carl brings mine every single morning.
Isn't it lovely?
Yeah, it's like, yes, you can serve me. Yes, I will receive this coffee.
Yes.
And then, the nice hug and the embrace, because I don't know, it's just so beautiful. I love it. It's like I go to bed so excited and giddy, because I know he's going to serve me my coffee. I'm going to have that nice hug, and I'm going to have our little talk. And it's so sweet. I love knowing that you and Philip are like still doing that after all these years. That warms my heart. I love that so much. I'm wondering about your kids, because you have two amazing adult children. And I look to you as, like, I've got these two young kids at the time of this recording. They're 7 and 10 years old. And I'm already setting intentions and actively investing in the type of relationship that I want to have with my boys when they are adults. I know that relationship doesn't just arrive. It's something that we create over their entire life. And so I look at you and the beautiful relationship that you have with your kids, but obviously it's had to shift and change, and they don't even live at home anymore because, they're adults. But what's that like? Like, what are your top tips for that transition from having the kids being at home and the high school years into, okay, now we need to shift, I imagine, our relationship, our dynamic, how we parent these adult children. How do we do that? What does that look like?
Yeah. What does that look like indeed?
Yeah, because I feel like I just want to keep acting as if they're toddlers. And then sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, oh no, he's 10. I really should be giving him just a little bit more autonomy or, you know, a bit more of a say in things. Like I'm parenting him as if he's in the stage of childhood before where he is now. Things have to shift. And so then I'm looking ahead at you and you've got these adult kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, things would have had to shift. So what does that look like?
There's so many books on parenting when the children are younger, maybe when they're 20, maybe in the early teens and dealing with the navigating all of the sexuality things or, yeah, but not really on what happens for you as a parent, how that relationship changes and how, and teenagers being teenagers, they like to push the limits and the boundaries. That's what, you know, that's what's expected. That's normal. But how do you navigate that while still maintaining a relationship? It's the visual I used to have, and I often share with people is like you've got the line that you give them the umbilical cord almost and visualize it's almost like a fishing line that goes out and you give them a little bit more autonomy and a little bit more freedom. They might do well, they may not. You may need to reel it back in. They may have to be right beside you for a lot longer. It's finding that, and in the meantime, it's also learning for yourself because you're not the number one person in their life anymore. That's really hard when they're little. You and dad, you know, the mum and dad, they're the really important people in their world. You get further and further and further down those rungs and you're challenged because you don't know what they're going through and you don't understand. And it's really hard. And I hate to tell you, Tracy, your boys may be different. I'm hoping, but if they follow the norm, they start not to talk anymore. And you don't know. They just because I tell you, both of my kids were chatterboxes. But you got less and less from them as they got older. They retreat to their cave, their bedroom. And what do you do in those times? You can't be too nosy, but you've got to find a little bit of information. And so it's a really delicate balancing act that you'll sometimes get beautifully. Other times it's going to fail miserably. But, you know, that's just part and parcel of it. Where everyone's learning their new roles, they're learning to be young adults. They're learning to be independent, and we grow our kids. And both Philip and I were very one on this, that we are raising our children to be independent young men and women. We're not raising them to be dependent on us and for having them race to us or to fix their problems. They will definitely come to us when they've got issues and they talk to us. That's what we want, to be a sounding board, to be a safe place, but not to fix their issues. That's hard. I tell you, Trace, that's one of the hardest things when your children are adults or young adults, is seeing them go through tough times, knowing they have to do it themselves, watching from the sidelines, but they have to experience it. They have to go through those hard things to learn and to.
Oh, I'm not liking this, Jo.
It's icky. And another thing for you as I mean, you'll be great at this because you're so aware and hyper aware of these sorts of things, but so many women, they invest, their role is being full-time mum, and that's, you know, that's really important role, no doubt. And the most important role for women who choose to have children that they will probably ever have. But who are you when you're not going to be a full-time mum? So start to rediscover the things that bring you joy. What do you like doing? Rediscover those sorts of parts of yourself again. Things that you have to put on hold because you're not a full-time taxi anymore. You've got this extra time. What are you going to do with it? What's it going to look like?
Yes, I do. In the mentoring that I've done with women over the past 10 years, that is a big thing for people. Like, who am I if I'm not like the center of my kids' universe, because they actually don't need me anymore. And even like down to, what do we wear? Like, do I have hobbies? What is my personal style? Like, all of these things. Yeah, let's not lose ourselves to motherhood. We can be amazing, dedicated mums. As you said, it's the most important role that we'll ever have. But at the same time, we don't need to lose ourselves and our essence. So I feel like my boys very much know who Tracy is. Like, they know I'm mum, but they know I'm still Tracy. I'm my own person, and I have hobbies and I have friends, and they enjoy getting to know me. And then they also have me as mum. But yeah, I am proud of myself for that. I think that, yeah.
Well, I see what
We have a
you're
lot
doing
of,
with your boys, and it's lovely to watch from the sidelines. I'm seeing this from the sidelines, seeing what you're doing with the boys, and it's beautiful, the sorts of things that you and Carl together are doing. But as a
yeah.
mum, how you're showing them that you're more than just a mum. You've got lots of other interests, and
Oh,
that needs to be respected and understood. We can only we want to be the best teacher we can for our children, and to be self-flagellating and just be at their beck and call all the time is not the best way to teach them on how to be respectful as how they should respect me as a person, number one, because I am a mum, that's one of my roles, but I'm a person, I'm Jo as well, and I've got my own interests and my own needs, and I think that they should also be met, not just yours. So I think being a good role
yes.
model that way, so that they also can see what they can find in what they appreciate and should find in a partner that they decide to be with as well.
Yes. Yes. I would, like, I'm very aware that if and when they do have a partner, that they see that person also in their own essence, and they allow that person to be a fully expressed version of themselves, and not just to take on the identity of someone's girlfriend or boyfriend or wife or whatever, or mum or whatever is going on. It's like, no, 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 that person was a soul and a spirit that came into this world, and then they were a baby, and then they were a child, and they had these interests and passions and curiosities and a zone of genius of their own. And it's like, we don't just get to snuff all of that and now give them this label. Like, be free yourself, and let whoever is that person, your significant other, also be the truest, most fulfilled version of themselves without it taking away from you. So I feel like I'm trying anyway to be an example of that, because I'm just aware of how I am is going to shape their expectation of what is normal in a relationship or with a partner. And so, yeah, I just think, oh my gosh, yes, they need to be very aware of that. You have got such a big mission that you are supporting or bringing awareness to, casting a big spotlight on, Jo, when it comes to women in midlife through career, marriage, parenting, their own health and wellness, their own happiness levels, all of that. Are there some things that really get you annoyed? Like, put a bee in your, the bee in your bonnet? Like, what are some things out there that make you cringe or get all like sassy about?
Oh,
What
sassy.
don't you
I'm
like?
not getting sassy. I
Yeah.
suppose as women, many women will find, we live in a very ageist society. That gets up my goat. It just annoys the bejesus out of me. Like, we're seen as being really useful members of society at a certain age, but once you reach that midlife age, probably, Trace, you still wouldn't be like, in most people's eyes, they don't realize midlife technically, according to sociologists, does start at around about 40 to 65 is that midlife range they call. But when you get to around about that 50, 55 age, I mean, you start to look different. You don't have, you've got lines, you've got wrinkles, women's shapes change. It's just things that look different. You don't look like you did when you were 40, put it that way.
Okay.
People see you differently. They start to treat you differently.
How are they going to treat me? How are they going to dare treat me, Jo? Get me ready for it. Come on.
My God. Here's one that gets up my nose. I laugh at it now, but the first time it happened, I was just, oh my God. The local grocery store. And the kids who work there, in fairness, the kids are 14. And when I was 14, anyone who was 20 was old, So
Yeah.
I will, but when I'm asked for my seniors card, have I got a seniors card? Okay. Nope. And the first time I got quite, oh my God, no, I don't, I don't have one. Whereas now, no, darling, not yet. I'm not quite that age yet. And just sort of laugh it off that, oh my God, the first time it happened. But, again, I'm putting all of that. That's not a major one. That's just a funny little one. When you go into shops a lot these days, Trace, that's different. you've seen, and a lot of women, and I won't say I'm seen as invisible yet. I'm not, but you're less visible in people's eyes, in people's way that they talk and approach to you, strange as that is. That's interesting. When you start to look at the way people market and the people talk about a woman, in that there's only one way to almost be seen, and the value of that is based on your sexuality as being really sexy or hot. And you can look great for your age, but would you call yourself sexy or hot? No, but do I only want to be seen as that either? No, there's a lot more to me than that.
Yeah.
Those sort of things.
I'm just giggling to myself because I'm like, yeah, I'll still be sexy and hot.
Yeah.
But then I love,
but but I tell you,
it's a state of mind.
I'm not saying that I don't feel like that, but that is being the only way that I am seen. And I suppose you go, there's a lot more to me than that. When you're younger, you're really, that's pretty important. Whereas when you're older, it's probably the importance isn't there anymore, and that's not valued. Society just doesn't value women as they get older. People as they get older, but particularly women.
Yeah. So you're saying, like, as those, I don't know, traits of what the world labels as sexy and hot, as those things begin to shift and change or diminish, because now we're aging and we look different, it's almost like like you use the word invisible. It's like that part of you is no longer as pleasant or as desirable, or you don't possess that anymore. And so people are just not even really noticing that you're there, or not having the same response.
And or less worth. You're seen as less worth. And when you think about a woman's experience as she gets older, it's more enriched. It's you've gone through some pretty shitty stuff in life, so you've got a lot of wisdom behind you. Wisdom isn't valued as much in our culture. Like in many other cultures, it is. An older person is more revered and respected. In our culture, it's not as much, and that's probably the big thing that I think you don't realize until you start to get older, how society does start to view older women.
Yeah. And it exists in so many different contexts for women. Like, I'm yet to encounter what you're talking about, but I remember when I became a mother and then I re-entered the workplace, nothing about me had changed at all, but there was an unconscious maternal bias that existed amongst people. It was like all of a sudden they treated me differently, or they assumed I wasn't interested in leadership. Because I was a mum, like just all of these sorts of assumptions. And so all that I have to go on, Joe, as I hear you express this, is like my brain is connecting it to that time in my life where I went through a transition, and now the world just all of a sudden, I don't know, put their prejudices on me and saw me in a very different way, even though I didn't feel like that myself. It almost was like it didn't matter how I felt. They just saw me different. And so they had this internal narrative going on and they responded to that. And so you're saying people have this distorted view or this internal narrative about a woman in midlife, 55 plus, I'm hearing you say, and it affects how they relate to you or the value that they think that you have. Yeah, and I can only imagine that feels awful. But like, what do you suggest? Like, what do we do? Because like, if they have that opinion and if their actions are based on a perception that they have, how do we respond to that?
In fairness, I suppose we've changed a lot as a society as well, and we're changing quite rapidly. Women now have a platform. Women of my age now have a platform in order to start talking about these things. Beforehand, it really wasn't discussed. It was just assumed that, a woman of a certain age, once you get to your late 40s, your 50s, this is sort of the path that a woman might take for the next half of her life. Now, particularly women in this generation, the generation I'm in, Generation X, we're questioning it more. We're going, no, we will tell you what we want to do. Thank you very much. So I think for women, like for you being younger, and having women who are further along in the midlife experience who are now starting to stand up and have a voice, have a say on how things should be. For example, I mean, you just look at the menopause conversation now. Even when I started talking about this a couple of years ago, it really wasn't spoken about very much. Whereas now it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's starting to talk, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are starting to talk about ageism and what that looks like and why it should be changing. So we're really starting to talk about it and changing the narrative, which will be, it's better for us now than it was for women who were, say, 10, 15 years older than me, certainly different than my mother's generation. I mean, my goodness, you know, there were very few women who would ever speak about things like this, and they were definitely on the outer. This is seen as normalizing a conversation that should be normalized. It's also giving examples for other women to be able to follow. And that's why I love having, you know, everyday midlife women talking about their experiences and what life can look like at this stage so others can see. There's not a one size fits all, and it's not the same path for everybody. And so by championing the voices of other women, highlighting other women, helping other and supporting other women to lead a life that they want to, that feels rich and supportive for them, that then helps the younger generation, the younger women who are watching, who are, you know, 5, 10, 15 years younger, watching from the sidelines, helps the daughters who are younger than that again, seeing what their mums are doing and how it's changing for them. So may not be perfect for our age, may not be perfect for your age of women, but hopefully for the women who are in their 20s and 30s, it might look very, very different.
Yeah, and just be the change, you know, like,
yes, be brave and be the change you want to see.
Be brave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wear the outfit, dance, go
Mm.
on the girls' trip, get, you know, just do you. Like, oh my gosh. And when you see people like Joe sharing the content that you do share, I think, like, let's hit share on those things. Let's click like on those things. Let's lend our voices to be part of the conversation. Let's include, for those that have businesses listening to this, let's make sure that we are showing opinions from all ages and stages and phases of life, that we are representing all people and all voices. Like, that's so important. Yeah, because you're so right. I'm like, it is. You can see it. You only have to look at Hollywood and movies and pop culture and to see the few roles that are even available to women, and then the way that they are cast into roles and things like that. And so if we don't like it, then, like, let's be the change ourselves in our daily lives, and let's not be shady or judgmental of other women that are challenging the status quo. Let's celebrate and support them and be vocal about it in the comments versus, you know, giving a little bit of side eye or a snarky remark. No, let's say thank you. Thank you for pushing the boundary. Thank you for starting the conversation. Thank you for being edgy or going first or daring to be different. Because yes, I need all of those women. I need you to keep leading the way, because it is going to make it be so much easier for women of my generation and the younger ladies and the young girls. But it's hard. It's hard to be in that, the first group of people that really are speaking about these things. So again, like, I just applaud you and every one of your guests and every one of your listeners and the women in your membership and your mentees for, like, just being audacious enough to be like, I'm here and I'm still thriving and I'm going to edit my life for the new season that I'm in, and I'm going to continue to make it great. Yeah, because the better it gets, the better it gets. Yes, that's it. And the other thing that I was thinking of is, you can't be what you can't see. So just be somebody else. Yeah. You don't realize who's looking and what that difference it could make for them in their life. So that's also something to be mindful of as well. Yes, that's been a big one for me in business. Would be. But I can see, yeah, in this context as well. Like, if you are surrounded by women or family and friends that just kind of, I don't know, give in to the stereotypes that are out there and don't question, don't edit. They're just kind of putting up with the cards that are dealt to them versus saying, oh, no, I don't feel lit up by this career anymore. I'm going to change it. Or I do have a new hobby and a new passion. I'm going to explore it. Like, be that example. It's hard to be that example when everyone else around you isn't. But this is why finding a community is so essential. And that's what I love about what you do. Like, you hold this space for women to come together that are like-minded in these ways and to seek the support of other women who are curating and editing their life for the next version of themselves, because maybe in their day-to-day they don't necessarily have that sort of circle, but there is a place. Jo's built a place.
Yes, Jo's built a place, and Jo's building a place and changing, and I'm learning along with all the other women as well. Like, that's the thing. I get it. And you're the same as well in the space that you work in, Trace. You've gone through a lot of these things. So you come with that added experience and wisdom that you can then share to others. That's pretty special to be able to do that. And it's special to have somebody who gets it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, what do you say? Like, what are three things that you'd love to leave your audience with when it comes to, I don't know, it could be three big questions or three things to actually go and do. Because I would love for every woman that listens to this episode, and I'm going to include myself in this, I'm going to listen to this episode. What are three things that we can go and do to redefine ourselves and our lives today? How can we edit?
I think the first thing I would advise is to challenge your absolutes. What are the things that you said that you can't do, you've never been able to do, I'll never, or I always? Challenge those. Is that true? Because I think we often get into a habit of saying, oh, I'm never going to be like that, or I'll never do that, or I'll never try that, or I can never do this. Challenge that. Challenge those absolutes. I would also, for every woman who is in the middle of life, and the younger you can do this, I mean, you're a great example of this, and you certainly showcase it within the mastermind and all the other mentoring that you do as well, and online presence. Prioritize your health and your wellness. For the love of God, will you please do that? Will you please do
everybody?
that?
Please.
That's right. Look at the end in mind. How do you want to live, feel, and be when you're in your 80s, in your 90s? I mean, God willing, you'll live well into your 90s with the way things are now. You do not want to be frail. We know that majority of women for the last 10, 15 years of their life, they are very frail, they're bedridden, and they're requiring help from others. Don't let that be your story. Start now. Prioritize your health. And I think, Trace, is to be mindful of the other thing I would be putting yourself into communities or have a circle of friends who are going to grow with you, that you know that you can count on to have these sorts of discussions. Because so many women think these sorts of thoughts of there's more, what more can I do? But they're not going to share it with a circle of friends or the family that they're with. So to find that group, or even if it's just someone else, find someone to start to have these conversations and really explore that. Because by imagining your future self now, you can create all sorts of magical things over the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's an absolutely perfect opportunity for you to become somebody that you may not have had the opportunities in the years gone by, but you've got them now. Make the most of them. Because if not now, when?
I know. Oh my gosh. No, like, permission to edit your circle, everybody.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's brave.
It is really hard.
Especially,
And brave.
like, if you are, well, I was a former people pleaser. And I really did want to be liked. I cared a lot about what people thought, like, oh, she's nice, or oh, she's this, or whatever. Like I really did. And I don't know if you relate to that, Joe, but like sometimes that would just, I wouldn't want to do something that went outside of the group, or like if I went and did something, are people going to think that I think I'm better than them? If I'm no longer participating in certain conversations, are people going to think that I'm up myself and I think, whatever. And so I'd kind of toe the line, and I'd kind of just, play my role or whatever to appease everybody. And for the sake of not being lonely, if I'm honest.
Mm.
Because if you're not going along with the group, then you are kind of like the odd one out. And we're all made to be in relationship with others. So fitting in and belonging is like, it's a basic human need. But just ask yourself, is this even the circle that I want? Because the quality of our circle and the quality of our conversations, it really does impact us. If we are hanging out with people, let's go back to point number 2, which was prioritize your health and wellness. If we are spending our days or sitting in conversations with people that don't prioritize their health and wellness, that drastically affects our own motivation, or it doesn't think, the whole things just aren't even in our awareness because we're sitting in a circle with people who maybe carry a lower vibration or who don't prioritize these things. And so if you want to change, if you want to have an amazing midlife, which is what you help people to do, I'm just like, cling on to Joe and to all of the women in this collective, because the quality of your circle, Joe, that you have curated here and you are curating, it creates a real quality life. It really does, because the conversations are different in your space. You get to redefine, you get to reimagine, you get to edit, you get to think about your thinking, you get to keep learning, you get to keep growing, you get to adapt and change versus just staying stuck in the same. So I see like that, I think all 3 parts that you shared are brilliant, but I feel like the one big domino is who we choose to be around. Because if we just fix that, then we are going to be the woman that prioritizes her health and wellness. And then we are going to be the woman who dares to challenge those thoughts of, I can't do this, or I'm too old to do that, or no, don't be ridiculous, I can't do that. No, those things will shift if we just shift the one thing, which is the who are we hanging around.
It's huge.
So powerful.
It is really powerful. And it doesn't mean that you have to leave all of your old friends. That's another thing. If you don't want to, keep, but grow your circle. The conversations can be different. And the conversations are different when you find a great circle. And that just opens up everything.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations on hitting 100 episodes of this transformative podcast for women. I always tell you, but I'm just like, I'll keep telling you because I need you to keep going because it matters so much. It matters so much. What you do is so needed, and it's not invisible. And it was an honor to come on and like support you and interview you. And I've learned a lot from this conversation. I'm always learning from you and looking up to you. And so, yeah, just thank you for being brave and daring to redefine your own life. Who would have thought like Joe Clark would be like not a teacher, not a principal, hosting her own
5 years
podcast?
ago, who would have thought? My God, not me. This is it. So we can be whatever we want to be and change if we want.
Yeah, at any age, like just go for it. Well,
Thank you,
Joe.
Trace. Thank you so much for all the beautiful questions. These are the sorts of conversations I absolutely love to have and live for, because they do make a difference. And I really appreciate you asking so many thoughtful questions today. And being another midlifer yourself with your training wheels on, you're just there right up to the steps.
Yeah, I know. And everybody needs a mentor too. And so I know that before we go, like what does mentoring with you look like these days? Like what can ladies do to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well,
how many ladies are you serving?
There's different ways that people can work with me, and it's obviously free platform that we have here where they can listen to me. But to go that extra step, if you are wanting to go to that extra step, then I do have various mentoring programs ranging from just one-off sessions to my Reimagine program, which is just a beautiful program where I step through on working out where you are, where you want to be, and how we can get you to those places. That's really special. I love working with women in that space. I also have longer mentoring packages if women would like to do that. I have my monthly health and wellness membership, Better Than Before. So there are a variety of ways, and in the show notes I've always got ways that people can contact me on Instagram, Jo Clark Coaching, and also just send me an email, Jo@Jo Clark Coaching, and we can talk further.
Yeah, be brave, ladies.
Be brave. Be brave. Life's too short to stay small and be boring and get to the end of your life and wish you'd done more. Let's get there.
I know.
Thank you.
And let's not get there alone. Like let's go together.
It's always better together.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jo. Congratulations. Go celebrate.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
You and all your listeners. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Trace. See you later. Thanks so much for listening and sharing your time with me today. I'd love you to hit subscribe on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app to keep spreading these empowering messages. Please share this podcast with other incredible midlife women in your world. Join me again next week for another Redefining Midlife conversation. Thanks again for tuning in.